All right, I think we're good to go. So today we are going to make a sort of generic game loop, I think. I say generic because I don't know exactly how things are going to fit together, but I have sort of idea. It's not really a game loop as such. It's not an actual game loop. It's more of a game engine tick or driver or whatever. But I will leave the bike shedding to other people because I have less interest in doing that. Hello, Zemporis. How you doing? Hello, Caleb. Hello, Expanded Cuba. How you going? Hello, Enrico. Oh yeah, Expanded Cuba. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise, right? If you use Arch Windows, you are morally superior than to all other people who don't use it, right? And if they try to tell you otherwise, they're just trying to justify the poor life choices. And do you have time for that? Probably not, right? Yeah, so I haven't done what I'm supposed to do. Well, I have done what I'm supposed to do, actually. But I didn't clean my keyboard, so that'll be a thing, right? Balatro. I played Balatro this morning, and it was pretty good. I managed to beat the noob deck, the beginner, not deck. What is it called? Whatever, right? On a new deck, right? Anyway, right. So I got a few runs to make for that one. I have both an arch. Let us see if I have the sticker here. How disappointing. I didn't find the sticker. I have an Arch Linux sticker somewhere, and my kid has drawn the Arch Linux logo and it's on my wall, right? I was going to post to Blue Sky, but it seemed to be down. Anyone else experience that? No, because you're the only one in the world using Blue Sky. Fine. But at least I tried. So we won't be posting there then. Yeah, we can fire off another update on this machine here as well while we are at it. Is there anything else to note before we get going with this stuff, right? I don't know if we finished the stream with a Balatro run or not. I will definitely try to get some more Balatro going today. I had a good time this morning following my schedule that sort of the plan that I set out for myself yesterday, and let's see, this one shouldn't be so entirely out of date, but there we go. So following the plan I set up for myself yesterday, it was it seemed to be going pretty well. Yeah. So with that in mind, we're gonna do some game loopery stuff shortly. Just gonna get my T fix. Not my Balatro fix though. That will happen later. I have no issues with NVIDIA drivers, by the way. The machine that I'm updating here is using NVIDIA drivers, and there are seemingly no issues there. Is the bot back up again? No, the bot's down. Hello, View 2. Lots of Ruby. Yeah, there's lots of Ruby. I don't know what is needing all this Ruby business, though, right? Doing all right. Hi, how are you doing? How you doing this fine day? T-Fix. Yeah. What else do we got going on? So we're gonna sort of continue. It's not really continue. We're gonna start from the beginning, though, right? Out of Jira tickets, oh man, is there any better feeling? Yes, there is one. Not having to deal with Jira whatsoever. That is slightly better, but still, good work though. Good work. Yeah. So this morning, I followed my plan. My week plan nonsense. So, well, I realized that I didn't factor in everything in there, right? That needs to go in there. We have workout, breakfast done, family things done, planning done, programming done, lunch done, and now streaming. And I am almost 2 hours early with the streaming. So I might actually get some video editing and stuff in today as well. That'll be pretty good. I think we're almost done procrastinating now. So we are going to wait for this thing to finish. Interesting error. And then we're going to power this off and get on with it, right? Oh, come on. Well, I guess we don't really have to care about that one. We can just get on with it, I suppose, right? So, all right, what are we doing today? We're going to implement something that kind of, sort of, possibly looks a little bit like a there we go. So yeah, so we're gonna do a little bit of programming. Then we're gonna deal with some timing issues and sort of something I've been mulling over today. Let me get my notes as well. So I can actually look at what I've written down for now. Yeah, I started doing like a layout for the engine and some client server feature list. But nothing too exciting. But you can do the game deal if you want, Ayushman. Game deal is pretty good though, right? There we go. So let's see. What are we doing? So current. Can we do this maybe? No. To do right. So this is day 10. Game loop, but not a game loop. Okay, so we're gonna add fixed or physics step, render step. Actually, I'm not gonna write this out because people are gonna get confused by that and think that we're a lot further ahead than what we are in reality, right? What else do we have to add to this? Maybe nothing. Maybe we just get cracking then. Okay, let's go into temp cargo new game lol. All right. So let's see. What do we need? Okay, so we have a couple of requirements. We need this thing to. We don't know how frequently this is going to run, right? So we can't say take this game loop 60 times a second, right? That's not our choice. That is sort of a different. It's going to be your choice, but it's not really, right? Because it depends on things like vsync and what have you, right? Am I not in stream mode? No, I am not. So let me fix that. I'm seeing all the notifications. Bosh and Dosh. There we go, right? So yeah, so we don't have we're not going to have like an actual physics implementation just yet, but we want this to work in such a way that we do something like is tick physics, and then we have state dot interpolate alpha, or I don't know, interpolate or blend, right? What's the difference between those two when it comes to state interpolation or blending? I don't know if we're gonna get it right. Well, you know what? It doesn't really matter. So we're gonna blend or interpolate the state, and then finally we're gonna render the state, and that's kind of it, right? That seems incredibly simple, and it would be, unless you really wanna over-engineer things or make things as ridiculous as possible, which is of course what we're doing now. Thank you for the follow, and to you, Skylar. How you doing? Okay, so this doesn't actually work, so we can probably ignore this. But what we can do is we can fire up the old what's this thing called? Excalidraw. I'm gonna use Excalidraw because we already have a bunch of notes in here, right? So I normally use either this or Infinity Draw, but I'm using Excalidraw today because I kind of keep some of my notes in here. It's kind of useful, right? So let's doodle a little bit over here somewhere, right? So in general, we have our loop here, right? So the thing that's going to amount to a tick, right? And that is going to it's going to happen, right? So one of the things that we have to do is we have to run our physics in all of this, right? And then we have to run our render code, and then in between these we might have other steps, right? Some kind of time step in here, generic unknown time step, right? So this thing is going to this thing, whatever this is, gonna track how much time has lapsed since the last one, and you know, is Cat Peasant here? No, you fooled me. There's no Cat Peasant in here. I'm streaming on YouTube just for Cat Peasant, but he's not here. But you know, tick. Maybe I should make that my YouTube. Just have an overlay of waiting for Cat Peasant instead of waiting for Godot. So anyway, physics time step times the time step. That's what we're gonna do roughly. And the output of the physics is going to go into the rendering code, right? So there's something that looks a little bit like this, right? So these time steps can do other things like drive network and things like that, right? What's this do? What's this do? What's this do? Okay, I think I figured out what all of them do now. And but that's it, right? I think that's sort of the gist of what we're building today. So these are gonna be generic and isolated, and that's it. Hello, Donny boy, how you doing? How you doing? And bye to you. Yes. So let's get cracking then, shall we? Let's make some, let's make this kind of game loop thing, right? Since we're going to translate this into the game engine, we might as well start with a separate module, because at this point, we're going to have a, we're going to have something that we can just move right into there and then build with them, right? So when you build things generically outside of the project you're building, then you kind of give yourself more work, but you're also giving yourself less work in the future. If you can build something and isolate it and test it, make sure that it works, then when things go wrong, it's probably not in there, right? Very good. I think it's Tempe. I haven't managed to figure out this bug yet. Okay. So if I do this, right, that's what you call box art. And there we go. Now it's stuck again. Now it's just attached to the mouse cursor. I don't know. I have to left click for it to stop doing that, right? And the eraser tool is a little bit erratic. That's, you can see I'm holding down the right button now, right? So it's a little bit when it feels like, but I haven't figured out what it is that causes that, so I really haven't put any time aside for it. That's all right. You don't have to. Okay, so let's call this thing. We could call it a timer. We can't call it a loop for obvious reasons, right? We can call it game loop, right? Now let's call it pool timer is wrong. Okay, let's call it game loop, right? Game loop. And let's add a mod RS in there. Okay, right. This is just so we can build things in there and then move from there onwards, right? So what are we gonna need for this thing, right? Well, I said we're gonna have this fixed. We're gonna have 3 different time steps, right? We'll have a fixed one which is running, and it can execute code into the future, right? Or rather, it can run things into the future. So what does that mean, right? Let's say that we have a fixed physics time step that will simulate physics 66 times a second, or 15.15 milliseconds, every 15.15 milliseconds. 15.152 maybe. I don't know. Who cares? Not me. So we can do this, and by running this, we might get sort of like an erratic time, which means that we are kind of missing the physics step, but the physics step should always have the same time delta, or since it's not really a delta would be a comparison of 2 points, right? Instead, it has a time frame, right, that is given. And we use this time frame to advance the physics, right? So you might be advancing the physics into the future, right? And that's okay, because the physics step is going to return the remaining value, the alpha value, which is what we're going to use then when we blend or interpolate the state of any client-side predictions. So we need that, and so that's going to be like the fixed time steps. So the fixed can actually advance things into the future. Then we'll have another time step, which is it's not a fixed time step. It's the time step we're going to use for things like networking and user input, sampling, and stuff. This will not be fixed. This will be an approximation, right? So it will be an approximate time step. Oh my god, I bit myself in the cheek, and it's swollen up, so I keep biting myself in the same place over and over again. All right. Interesting facts. So let's say that we run that every whatever and milliseconds, right? That means that you might be sort of plus minus on that one. It can only run as fast as the game itself. So if the game is running at 30 frames per second, even if this thing is set to execute 60 times a second, it's still subject to this, right? But it can run slower. So if we say sample the input 66 times a second, and you run the game at 60 frames per second, that means that you're actually sampling the input 60 times per second. But if you're running the game loop at 200 frames per second, you're still only sampling at 66 times. So it's kind of like a cap. There's like a maximum to it, and that's going to be our approximation. And oh my god, how's this going to go? So when we get to, how can I be Sigma? You're all here, right? And then when we get to, thank you for the link. When we get to the actual time step, I know I have read it countless times on stream as well. It is a very good article. It is not. Incidentally, I find that his newer writing is not particularly interesting, but his old articles are still really good. So in Street Fighter, people double tap buttons to time the inputs. For what it's worth, kind of interesting game with option. Well, okay, so if just building on top of that, even though we're sampling the input 66 times per second, we're only sampling the input. We're not actually doing anything with the input. So you can think of it like this. You sample the input n number of times per second. You transmit the input n number of times per second. So maybe if we sample the input 60 times per second, and so I bit myself in the cheek so many times now that I'm developing a speech impediment on top of this. So we sample input 60 times per second, right? And then we transmit input 20 times per second, right? So the sample input becomes this amalgamation or aggregation of input, and then we transmit this input aggregation, right? So sampling, it doesn't matter how fast you sample it, and as long as you sample it faster than you are transmitting it, right? So you could effectively run the game at 20 frames per second, and you would still be good here, although it would probably be a little bit rubbish, all things considered. But you want to sample it as much as possible. Hello, Tenak. So you wouldn't be able to do that, what Dota is saying. You wouldn't be able to double tap the input and try to send two inputs because you're effectively gonna get one key press, right? But anyway, that's irrelevant for now. So we have the fix, we have the approximation, and we have the instant. And an instant time will just happen whenever it happens, right? So since this is going to be used for our rendering, this means that we are going to run the instant time, whatever the render loop wants us to do, right? So we'll call render every time this thing happens, right? Oh man, that's smart. Tell you what, you could process double presses because luckily you're getting your inputs as events. Could, but events doesn't mean anything, right? We are building up something that is, we translated the events into commands, and the command type is dictated by the trait or the world trait, right? Nice. Does anyone know what sample rate the SNES runs at, right? Why don't you sample the input every millisecond, for example, and transmit the current input state and have an input queue? You can calculate what you want on top of it. Isn't that literally what I said? I didn't elaborate on it and saying that we had a queue or anything. We're sampling the input and translating them into commands, right? But yes, I think we're kind of on the same page, Litvas. The game with blocks, Tetris, that would be the original Game Boy was shipped with Tetris. Hello, Kani. Okay, anyway, so I'm caught up with chat. Let's get programming, shall we, right? Let's get programming. What's this file, right? Okay, it's the mod. So what did I say? We have the fixed one, we have the approximation, and we have the instant, right? Now, unfortunately, the instant is going to be a little bit awkward to name because there's already an instant that's relating to time. So we'll just have to deal with it, right? So game loop's going to have a fixed RS. So let's make a pub, but only to super. Struct fixed. And this thing is going to need to know every time step is going to have to know the current time, because everything that we're going to advance time as the game moves forward. Well, we don't advance time. It's just the universe does that for us. But we're just going to read the time since the game start. It's always going to be present in there, right? And this is useful when you want to do things like I don't know, right? You want to show the time or whatever it is, like some kind of useful thing, right? Okay, so we are going to have a fixed time loop for this thing. That's what we're gonna do, right? So what do we need for this thing, right? So earlier up in chat, Sakakosi was linking to the article fix your time step. We talked about 100,000 times at this point, but that is using an accumulator. And we're going to use the same way to do our fixed time step, right? So we're going to have an accumulator, which is the duration. Use the time duration. And as I mentioned before, we're going to also provide the instant of the time. So the game loop is going to hold the instant, of when it was started, and every step is going to have access to this information. Hello, Scott. How are you going? You're welcome. As long as I'm speaking coming out of your like speakers and not from somewhere in the house, though, Scott, I think you're safe. And so we're going to have the duration, we're going to implement fixed, and we're going to have a function that's going to be public to the parent called advance. It's going to take mutable self, it's going to take a delta, which is duration. And remember that the physics has to return the alpha, right? So this one's also going to return a duration. Oh my god, I bit myself again. Right, we're gonna add a must use here because the other time steps are not gonna return anything, right? What does bytemark do? It helps you with zeroing out your data types and a couple of other things, right? It's one of those convenient libraries to use for game dev. Anything you want to upload to the GPU, right? It will help with that. It will help with what does it actually promote itself as? So casting between plain data types, but that is very generic. And I guess bytemark is generic, but it's really handy dandy for being able to cast a vector of some type into a bytemark slice and things like that, right? So they have fixed memory layout, which Rust doesn't have by default, although that kind of comes from the C representation of it, right? The meowing order, yeah, I think that's about right. Okay, so we're going to advance the step. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do self.accumulator. We're going to add the delta to the accumulator, and we are going to return the accumulator divided by the delta, right? But to be able to do that, we can't divide a duration with a duration, right? That doesn't work. So accumulator divided by delta. If we did this, it shouldn't build. It is building now, but that's because we haven't added these things. So let's add fixed here, and now it should stop building, right? All right, you can't do this thing. But what we can do is we can cast this or get the microsecond value out of this, right? So we get this as microseconds, and then we can make a new duration from micros. Let's call this thing alpha. Like so, right? Now, this is a little bit, can you please format my code, right? This is a little bit funny because this will give us a U128, right? But creating a duration from micros does not a U128 take. Instead, it's a U64. So we have to cast this down to a U64 again, right? But this is kind of the gist of it. And remember that physics can run in the future. So that means that you might have to advance this a couple of times before you're done, right? So we'll have a little while loop here, and we'll say while the accumulator is larger than or equal to the delta, then we're going to subtract delta from accumulator. And we want to run the code for the time step in here, where we pass in the frame time, right? So frame time, which is going to be a duration, which is a little bit awkward to call it frame time because this is generic, but let's call it frame time for now, right? So there'll be something like self.run with self.frame time, okay? And this is how we might end up running code in the future, which is we're not running this code with the delta value. That might just be incredibly incorrect, right? Let's say hypothetically that we have a delta of 9, and we have a frame time of 2, right? So the accumulator would get, what did I say? Did I say 9? Okay, let's say hypothetically it's going to be 9 here, right? And our frame time, this doesn't look right, actually. Anyway, yes, I'll get to it. So if this thing has, if the delta is 9 and the accumulator is, well, that's just going to be 9. And that, see, that's not right. That shouldn't be delta. That should be the frame time, right? And we're subtracting the frame time. So if the frame time is 2, right? If we say that the frame time is 2, that means that we're subtracting 2. So we're going to go from 9 to 7, 5, 3, 1. But at this point, we had 1 remainder, right? So we're not really able to do any more subtractions, right? We can't send half a frame time because we would end up sending an incorrect value to our physics, like physics calculation, right? That would just be nanas, right? So we're saving this 1 here, and that's what we're returning ish here. Well, technically we're not returning. Well, we're returning the accumulator. We're returning 1 divided by 9, right? But so hopefully that makes sense. But it means that we can run things into. Hang on, that's not running things into the future, right? Actually, this would put it at, yes, we would be 1 into the future. That's the correct thing, right? What I said about the alpha is wrong. This would end up running this into the future. So even though the value for this while loop would be 1, we're still gonna pass in 2 here, right? All right, that was exciting. I hope you're as excited as I am, right? And yeah, so that's in essence, that's our fixed step, right? The only thing we haven't done, we haven't associated any functionality with this thing yet, right? Our approximation is going to look a little bit different, right? Game loop approximation or approximate. There we go, right? Let's go to the module and let's add the approximate, which was apparently the hardest word in the world to write. Pub super struct approximate. Maybe we just call it approx because it's an annoying thing to write, and I'm comfortable with calling it that, right? Should have called it that up here as well. So how this thing is gonna differ from this guy, it's not gonna have an accumulator. It's gonna have a frame time. So the frame time is really what we're talking about when we are. It's incredibly warm in here. I'm gonna go and turn the radiator down just a smidge. But the frame time is really the tick rate for the actual timer, right? Okay, let me go and turn down the radiator a bit here. There we go. Right, so our approximation or approximate time step is going to look similar. So we're going to implement approx. I don't like approx. I want a proper spelling here, right? Because it has the word mate in it, and it can feel like it's my friend, right? It's not my mate, but it's sort of my mate. It's my approximate. And we need a new function for both of these. This should not be public. There we go. All right. And what are we going to pass into this? Remember that every step should know what the current game time is. So we're going to have an instant available to every single step. So we have to pass the instant in here, right? The now time. And we're going to pass in the frame time as well, so we know how long it's going to be. Approx was better. Well, if I have to type it out every time, but I don't know. I like approximate more. So frame time and timer is going to be now. Our accumulator obviously starts at 0. It's not half bad to work with Rust and the time, right, of the standard library. Now, when we go to WASM, we can't use the standard library time, but there's apparently there's a timing crate for WASM called something, WASM time. No, that's the runtime, idiot. System time now. Is time in Rust guaranteed monotonic? Yes. Now you have to tell chat what that means, Sudo says. So I wonder if this thing might link to this. No, that's not the one I'm thinking about. There is a crate for this. Okay, let's do Rust WASM duration instant, maybe. Maybe those are WASM timer, maybe that's it. Yeah, I think WASM timer is the one that we can use for this, right? Okay, so frame time, duration, and what else do we have in there? Yeah, so we need the now in there as well, right? It's the instant now. So we're gonna have the, did we call it time for the fixed one? I'll call it timer. That is clearly wrong. Yeah, we call it time. So this is the time that has passed since the game loop spun up. And we're gonna have now, and we're gonna have frame time. Web time. Maybe that's another one, right? Let's have a look at this thing, right? Oh yeah, maybe this was it. Yeah, I think maybe that was it. Good spot, Yamshit. Good spot. I have some WASM thing I wrote. No, that's the current thing. Is it this thing here? Web-time 1.1. Yes, that is the right one. Okay, good spot. The maintained version of the audience. Yeah, and this is the one I've used in the past. So that was good spot. Yeah. Come on, Sudo. We're still waiting. I'm gonna do this to everyone in chat now. Anyone who says anything, I'm gonna ask you to explain what it is. Don't. I'm kidding. Don't feel like you have to do that, okay? I'm just being a d-bag on purpose. I'm just playing silly buggers, nothing else, right? Okay, so that's gonna be our time. Now remember that this thing's gonna behave a little bit different, right? Proxy main. There we go, right? I can see the benefit of this thing, right? But you have to, yeah, okay, all right, Sudo, you don't have to do anything, okay? I'm just being a d-bag on purpose now, okay? Don't answer this, right? Anyway, back to being a d-bag. Yeah, but you have to say what's the characteristics of monotonic time. What is it the monotonic time can't do? And then I do like hand gestures. All right. Okay. Now, don't answer that. I'm not trying to put anyone in the spot, right? In a spot, in whatever, right? It's all good. It's all good. No, don't worry. It's okay. So the thing is, you don't have a responsibility to anyone to say or do anything. Um, in that sense, right? Yeah, you like you don't have. I don't even have any responsibility to not make shit up when I'm talking to you guys, right? I might have made this whole thing up. There might not even be such a thing as a duration, right? I just made it up. You got a question? Why not Balato Aces run right? Meow. Because I have a schedule, right? That says that I'm supposed to do streaming now for a few hours, and after that I'm gonna do video editing. But I might be able to fit in a Balato run in between. That right? Twitch chat has basic rights? Nah. There is no such thing. I think it'd be useful chat if they don't know. I think that is the best thing said today, okay? You, my friendo, is ending up in here now. There we go. Very good. It is useful. I mean, monotonic time is useful. It can't go backwards, right? Which is a funny thing when you're talking about time in computer, right? Like how can time go backwards, right? Anyway, you can read if you guys are interested. Just type in like what is monotonic time, and you'll find out, right? No one has to explain anything here. I barely explain what I'm doing right now. All right, so we're gonna have another function here that's going to advance the time. Now, when you have multiple things that look sort of the same, you might think, oh, that's a trait if I ever knew it. But if we look at the fixed one, you can see that the advanced function is actually returning duration here, which the approximation doesn't do, right? It just advances the timer forward. Now, the disadvantage of this is that I might have some typos in there. We'll see. But, you know, so, you know. Now, when it comes to advancing this thing, remember that, well, you don't have to remember anything, but as I mentioned in the beginning, when we're advancing the approximation, we're not doing this in the same way as the physics step is run. The physics step is running, or sorry, the fixed step is running, unsurprisingly, at a fixed step, which means every time it reacts, it's with an exact same size frame time. Whereas the approximation is running as fast as it's allowed to, but as slow as it should, but possibly slower, right? Your infinite power is being limited. Hello, Axel. How you doing? Got squatters, right? Yeah, if you stay in the chat for more than 6 years, you own it. Okay. I guess squatters' rights are different in different places, right? The whole thing is insane to me because how can you stay in someone's place and then just claim ownership of it? It's just, I don't know, right? Yeah, when you're talking about high speed trading, Cozy, that's a very specific field of programming where you care about everything. You're basically caring about the time data spends on the wire, right? You're programming high speed trading where the things you take into consideration are like nanoseconds or microseconds, right? You want to get to like the Bloomberg router as fast as possible kind of thing, right? Which is why companies spend these insane amounts of money on the hardware and all this stuff, right? Like it's like you literally want to be as close to the router as possible. You want to be so all this stuff is absolutely insane. And if we make generalizations when we program, we talk about programming, right? And when you look at this from like far away, then you can say, oh, but that's amazing. If we have all this stuff for high speed trading, why don't we use the same technology for like video chats so we can get more instantaneous frames? Or why don't we use this for as a replacement for IRC, whatever that's built on top? I mean, they're not. One is a protocol and the other one's a technology, right? There's not a replacement, right? But like, why wouldn't we like get the same? Why don't we do the same kind of programming for the web as we do for high speed trading and these kind of things? But when you look closer at something, and it's not just the infrastructure cost, right? It's just when you solve problems on the surface, they look the same. You want something to be delivered somewhere as fast as possible, but the problem domain is very different, right? So if you think about it, a web page should be delivered multiple times to maybe millions of different people, or million different recipients, NICs, computers, right? Whereas in high-speed trading, you might be carrying, like, you might not think about concurrency there. You might be thinking about one single-threaded program doing the work. So that doesn't scale for concurrency as a hypothetical, right? I've never written any code for high-speed trading. It's a fascinating space, but not fascinating enough for me to dive into it because, again, it's very limited to that domain. It doesn't, just because it's fast there doesn't mean that it scale out. In the same way, you wouldn't ride a rocket to the supermarket, even though it's arguably going to be faster than your car, right? So from far away, the rocket might seem like a good idea, but in the end, your push bike's going to prevail. So here, we're just going to keep removing time from our current approximation until we have consumed all the time that there is, right? So we need a now here, right? So, and that's a little bit annoying, although maybe it isn't. Technically, they could be the same when we set them up, right? But they are not quite the same because this one will be rewritten. So self.now is going to be an instant now, right? That will happen. So they can start off from the same place, but they cannot end at the same place, right? Because this is now a position in time, right? If you drew, let's draw, right? If you drew time like this, and then when we start the game loop, then this point here is now. But this one stays here. Whereas this now will keep updating. So it's there, then it's there, and then it's there, and so on and so forth, right? So this one will not. They will desync after the first advancement, right? Okay. And the delta will be self.now that elapsed. Right. That is as much time has elapsed since the last time we advanced this, right? So this is why you can say that this thing should run 66 times a second, but if the advance is only called 60 times a second, that's what you're limited to, right? But only once, Excel. Your computer can cheat time, DST, time zones. Monotonic will only ever advance. Yes. So it can't go backwards, right? You totally didn't have to look that up though, right? Or mention that. So I was just winding you up. Right? Shopping will have a lasting impact. Very good. You should write adverts for ICBMs, right? Intercontinental bowel movement for anyone who's wondering. So right, so then if the delta or the frame time is now larger than or equal to the delta, then we are going to trigger this thing, right? Hang on. Oof. Timekeeping in general is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that one is a little bit, that time synchronization is a funny thing, right? If you think about that from a very Captain Birdseye perspective, right? If I am here telling you what the current time is, by the time you get that information, that time will have passed. So you're always behind knowing what time it is. So you have to do things like what time is it, and also what's the latency, so I can attach that to the time. But the latency isn't entirely dependable either, right? Time is a fickle biscuit, right? What we could do is we could do the same thing as we're doing with the fixed one and not keep this. We can have an accumulator here as well, right? So that's the duration. So instead of tracking this, we're just going to take the delta value and say the accumulator has now got the delta added to it. And and then if this thing is larger than the accumulator, then we're going to set the accumulator to 0. And now the delta time that we're dealing with is going to be the accumulator, right? Because that's as much time has accumulated. Remember, in the fixed step, the accumulator is not the delta. That's the frame time, because again, into the future, right? Whereas this one can never exceed the present time. So we're using the delta here, right? So we're going to... Did we give a name to these things, right? We did not. Okay, yes, we did. Run code for the time step, self.run, and then here we're going to have the accumulator, or the delta, which is constructed from the accumulator. So all in all, pretty simple stuff. And then we're going to make a new one called game loop instant.rs. And this one's going to be super simple, right? Instant, and you're an instant. There is no time, no frame time here. There's no accumulator either, right? This thing just holds the present time, right? Now we could make this into a tuple struct because it only holds one value, but that's going to be tedious in the long run because it's such a generic value. Okay, so we're gonna pass in now, time is now, and then advancing, there's none of that, 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 and that, whoops, stays the same, right? This was the Balatro streamer. I mean, but isn't that what this is coming to? I'm having my Balatro arc now. We start doing Balatro instead of anything else. Okay, so we have three different timings now. We can sort of try this out if we go to our loop. Pubstruct loop. Should have a T in there. We need a physics step, right? Physics. That's gonna be a fixed step. Import fixed. We're gonna have the render time, right? Render. That's going to be the mood. The instant. So these are the two that we're gonna use here, right? Okay, what are you griping about? Right. As time as no, we'll do self and duration here, right? Then that's gonna be time instant for you and you, right? A little bit awkward, but there we go, right? I don't think the majority of my viewers actually wants to watch me play Balatro, right? So we're not. If I do that, it'll be at the end of the stream, right? We'll do a run maybe. Let's create a new loop. Now we have to generate some kind of physics for this thing and an instant, right? Remember that the instant doesn't have a duration. One thing that we get here is we're going to have a now. That's going to be an instant now. So this instant is... I need a new name for this thing, right? We're not going to call it instant. It's colliding. We're not going to call it now either. We can call it no delay, right? No delay. That is not a good name for it. So the physics step, physics is going to be fixed, new, and we have to pass in the physics frame time for this. So we need to put that there. That's the duration. And it needs to know about now. Okay, so I put the order wrong here. So now, there we go, right? Momental. We call it memento or monumental, right? It's difficult to name this thing, right? I don't hate it. I don't like no delay, but I feel like we can do better somehow. We can try it, right? So that will be a new one, passing in now. So this is going to be controlled by request and no, not request animation frame. Request redraw of winit, right? So pop function take mutable reference itself, and we are just going to do self dot. We need a delta here, right? And we need to store now on this thing as well. Okay, so current time instant. So now time is now. Hello, Armadan. It's glorious, mate. It's glorious. He started putting his face in my hand when I pet him. I saw some videos of him. I'm gonna see if I can get the videos from the wife, because it is absolutely horrible when he was sick. He was so sick. He couldn't walk. It was like a drunk person walking. He would just fall over and just spin on the... Like, it's just roll around on the spot. And man, can't believe he made it. Self.time.elapsed. That is not what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a delta here. That will be... No, it's not delta. What do we call this thing in the fixed one? We call it... It's not accumulator either. Well... We're gonna have a thing. Current. That's what you are. You are current. There we go. So that's gonna be self.current.elapsed. And then self.current is instant now. There we go, right? Parakeet. Oh no. Oh no, that is so... Yeah. That is really hard, Ramadan. We spoke with the vet, right? After we saw signs of improvement, and we sort of... He kind of came back, and we took him to the vet, and we said, like, he seems fine. Fine. He seems all right. He's eating, he's playing a bit, he's doing sumis the best he can. He's lamb chopping, all these bunny terms, right? But we need to know if he has life quality, if he's suffering. So, like, could you investigate our bunny, right? She poked him in the eye. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And she's like, he's had a bleeding in his eye. And so she's like, did this towards his eye to see if he was reacting. She thought he was blind. And like, she like tapped him in the eye. I was like, man, don't tap the butt in the eye. So that's what I think might be the way to do it, though, right? You take it to the vet and a specialist as well, right? Just your average vet. This guy, but yeah, all right, let's just chuck him in the oven, right? No, man, you need to find a specialist if you can, someone who knows parakeets. and you go, you know, can he come back, right? You took him there yesterday. Oh, did they say anything? It's really sad to have to put down a pet, right? It's like, imagine you take grandpa to the hospital and be like, oh, he broke his leg. He's very old, okay? He's very old. Grandpa, no. He's gonna lose his tongue. Oh, does he have like does he have like a fungal thing or something? Sound.physics dot advance. And we're gonna pass in the delta here. I think that's it, and that's gonna be the alpha value. So do the thing with the alpha here. He has a mouth sore. Oh, fair enough. I have no idea how severe these things are. I don't know, but I had a bird when I was a kid. But I don't know. I don't know why my parents agreed to get me a bird. If you guys don't know this, birds are insanely loud and they don't shut up. Like, you have to be okay with that constant squeaking if you're gonna have birds, right? We had a bird. He was very cool, but I don't know anything about birds, right? You love it, yeah. You have to. Hello, Crisscross. How you doing? Yeah, if you don't like birds, then you should not have a parakeet or anything, right? Oh, you got 4 budgies. That's cool. Yeah, as like, so the only thing I know about birds, right? So we were gonna take care of animals, like a foster home for animals, and for birds, they have to have like they can't be left alone, right? They have to have company for like 12 hours, and then they have to sleep and have like alone time for 12 hours. This is like a, you know, hand wavy thing, right? Put him back, Simon. Put him back. But yeah, so they have to have all this thing, right? And a bird can sit on your shoulder, and 2 things can happen. It can assume that your shoulder is a social thing, or it can assume that your shoulder is a toilet. And if you get the wrong kind of assumption from the bird, it's gonna bite you in the neck and in your ear, and it's gonna shit on you. Which kind of convinced me to not foster birds after that. I was like, oh no, I was like, wifey, that's a lot of things that could go wrong here. Let's not do the bird thing, right? Yeah, I think having animals in pairs are generally the best. Some animals die if they're not in. I think chinchillas they struggle if they're not in pairs, right? The bunnies should be in pairs, but you can't get another bunny when one of them dies, because then you have bunnies for the rest of your life. And that's another thing that we did. When he came back, we kind of went, okay, is he gonna be happy on by himself? If he's not, then we have to put him up for adoption. If he is, then it's fine, but we're not getting another bunny. And so we brought him down. He lives on he couldn't be left where he used to be with the other bunny now, so we had to bring him down. So in our living room, we basically have rugs in like one large portion of the living room. There's just rugs, and a bunny lives there. And he shits, and he eats hay, and kicks his little shits everywhere. When he gets excited and starts doing laps, sometimes a little pellet goes flying across the room. Right? Recursive bunnies, yeah. It's an exercise in cleaning, constant cleaning, right? Is Blue Sky still dead? No, it seemed to be up again. I'm not gonna post them there now, right? I'm not gonna bother posting there, right? Okay, so we can do this thing. We can have the render in there. So self.render. We're gonna pass in the state when we render. So the render should probably be something else, right? So it will be something like a renderer, and it will have a I guess technically this guy doesn't need a node delay. It will just have a state of some kind, and we will import renderer, and state is a unit, and render is a function. Actually, we shouldn't pass the alpha in there. Instead, we're just gonna put the render on there. Because of what we're doing, we can change this to default and be done with it. So now this thing becomes a renderer instead. So we're gonna do the state from self.renderer. Actually, the state should not sit on the renderer. That's wrong. That's kind of dumbassery. I don't know what the state is gonna be here, right? Something like that, right? Okay, so then we've done the thing with the alpha, and then finally self.renderer render. Like that. Now we have to have all the timers in here, right? So timers, it's going to be a vec of neovim. I don't think that's true. Or time step, right? So we haven't really defined what a time step is. So maybe we change the game loop to time step instead. And we make another one called game loop.rs in here. So in our main, we're going to add time step, which will have there we go, right? So then we have the time step in here. So these are okay. And then we're gonna export these things to the rest of the crate. So we'll just do a pub crate use approximate fixed por fin instant no delay. There we go. Now these have to be crate pub now, right? So that's gonna be crate, and that's gonna be crate. Oh, that's crate. And the same thing for the instant one. And the approximation. Whoops. No, that's done already. Fixed. There we go. There we are. Don't need that. Now we can go and deal with this. So that's going to be time. Whoops. So now we have to make the time step, which is why we have this now, right? So pub create struct time step, and I don't know if we need to associate anything with this thing. This could be an enum. So that could be fixed. Instant. And an approximate. Like so. So now the time step can be imported. Like so. There we are, right? Need some duration in there. And now the time steps should be in here as well. So timers will be let's start with an empty vec for now. There we are, right? Okay, so what we could do now is we can associate functionality with these two. So let's have a look at the browser for this now. Excalibro, wrong browser, damn it. Excalibro.oreg. If we look at this thing, I wonder if we have anything here. Don't really have anything that demonstrates this conversation. No, we don't. Okay, but I can tell you anyway, because I know something that I made up. When it comes to this thing, the client is going to do predictions and the server is going to do the simulation. So the world tick and the client prediction have an association, right? They have to have the same duration associated with them. I don't know if we can encode this into this conveniently, but we'll see, right? So let's have a look at this thing. So then here we go. For step in self timers, and then step.advance. And we're going to pass in the delta to this. So step now has to have an advance, right? That is correct. This thing's not going to return anything. Remember that the is saying the client prediction needs to be exactly as long as the server simulation. Okay, let me see how I can phrase this so there is no misunderstandings. Actually, it's very easy. When the server simulates the physics, the client also has to simulate its position for its own player, right? Let's say that you have a player in the world that is at some arbitrary X and Y coordinate, and you issue the command to move the player north for duration of time. Now, actually, forget the word duration or phrase duration of time in that, right? You just issue a command, move north. So you take the current position of the player, and then you apply northward movement for a duration that is the same duration that the server is going to apply this northward movement, right? So this way, when you consolidate the server state, or rather when you do server corrections, if you have to do any, you're going to have the same result. So if I move north for 20 milliseconds on the server and on the client, we are going to have the same position, right? When the server tells us you have moved north for one time step, and the client's just going to go, yeah, that's exactly what happened, right? If someone were to cheat or do something else, the server will just have the final truth, right? It's the source of truth. So the server's version is the one that is going to be overwriting the client. This is not really designed with the intent of preventing cheating. It's just a pleasant side effect, right? We're just driving everything server-wise. But if you drive everything server-wise without predictions, then you're gonna have very unpleasant movement, right? It'll feel very delayed and stuff, right? So there's a good article on this. I'm going to link this to you. Let me find the article because it's definitely worth reading. There we go. This, okay? You can look at this thing if you're interested. This one has a good demo that you can see and explore to see what happens when you don't have prediction and you don't have reconciliation, right? Okay, so we are going to advance the time steps. That means we have to match on south, and we have to fix this thing, right? It is not a particularly challenging article to read. Now, be mindful. You don't have to be mindful, but I will tell you anyway. I skipped the last bit of the article, which is the input reconciliation, on account of none of my game ideas are FPSs or require that level of it's not to say that we can't build it in, right? We are going to retain state history, but it's not one of the goals, right? It is a good series. Okay, so an approximation here. This one is fine. Here, since we're not returning anything, we can just say approximate.advance. And we're going to pass in the delta. That one is easy, okay? Oh yeah, you have to be as mutable as the day is long. Right. Instant, again, no delay, can advance with no concern for what's going to happen. Fixed, on the other hand, cannot advance without something going wrong now, because this thing is effectively returning something. There are two things we can do here. We can simply do this, or we can anger Clippy by dropping whatever we get back, right? Either one is fine. Now, I'm quite happy doing this, and Clippy, if you're listening, no. Right, so that's it. That can be self. I prefer to be selfish when I can. And that's kind of the gist of it, right? But we haven't tried any of this. Clippy's gonna be all like, no! Because of this, right? This is one of those like Clippy frown things. But look, Clippy, I was doing that before you were born. Shut up. All right, let's make a loop here, right? So we're gonna have a mutable loopy, game loop, new, right? That probably needs, okay, we need a physics time frame, right? So we pass in duration. But you know what? We want to be a little bit fancy pants, because, you know, who doesn't want to be fancy or pantsy? So let's write a utility function that is public, called FPS to duration, that takes in a decide frame rate as an U16. We don't expect, I mean, we can use a U32. We don't really expect larger frame rates. So let's return the duration here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert this thing to seconds. All right, so as seconds, that's going to be the FPS as F32 divided by, nope, it's going to be 1 second divided by FPS as an F32, right? We don't really need more resolution than what we get out of this thing. Then we're going to make this into microseconds. So that's going to be as seconds. And we're going to multiply that by 1 million. So we get our microseconds. And we're going to take this and we're going to round this now, because there might be still some fractions looming. But we want to round this thing. And then we're going to return this as an option, right? Why do we want to return this as an option? If for whatever reason you were to pass in a number that's going to make this thing cranky, well, 0 or anything to that avail. So we end up with either nan or inf. For those of you who know math only from bilateral, that's where nan inf comes from, right? Not a number or infinite. So we are going to say as, well, not as micros, yes, as micros. As micros dot is finite. I said finite and then I wrote something else. Then, and we're going to make a duration from micros. And since we know that this is okay, we've already done the rounding, we can take as micros as a U64, right? So you remember from before. And that's it, right? So now we have a little simple thing, right? You die. Wait, what am I missing? I should just keep that. what happens when you try to move but the server refuses? Then you issue an eviction notice and say you have to leave this abode. When you try to move but the server refuses, that would imply that you're trying to move through a wall or something that maybe the physics step is preventing you from doing. So you cannot do, you know what? That's kind of a good question, Freefall. So we actually have to simulate physics on the client as well. I say physics, but let's be very clear here. We're talking about basic collision detection, maybe. I mean, maybe if you have some kind of wrap here or whatever, but you have to simulate the physics with the same size time step on both the server and the client in that case, right? So what could be a problem, Freefall, would be if the server is exhibiting frame drops. So the physics step is running low. No, that wouldn't have an impact on it. No, that wouldn't have an impact. No, you just have to simulate physics. You have to know what part of the world you cannot move through on both the client and the server in that case. Do you recommend writing a GUI library? Is this a good or a bad idea? It's a terrible idea, but I also recommend doing it. Doing it for Minecraft? Yeah, I saw you posted something on Discord and I was like, what? Yeah, we have to simulate the parts of the world on the client. We have to simulate static objects on the client. That's a very good point. I better note this down. Ah, mierda. Hello, Raga. How you doing, mate? Welcome back, Tempors. Yeah, the server is always going to be the ultimate truth, right? Okay. So we have a little utility function that will allow us to convert frames FPS to duration. So let's pop over to our main function. Let's say that the physics should run something like 60 times per second, right? Or 66 times, if you will. So let's pass in physics here. And then we stick a loop in here and loopy.advance. I can't write. There's no advance. Is there a tick maybe? Tick the world. Okay, and then we'll do a thread sleep for a second here because we just wanna run this and observe this now. So for our fixed here, we're just gonna print this out, right? So we just print out fixed and the debug version of frame time here. And for our approximation, we shall do something similar. That's gonna be delta That is the approx. And the instant one is just gonna be, there we go, right? So you run this now, attempt to divide by 0. Okay, well, at least we got that. Fixed 28. I've written a lot of code without actually doing anything, haven't I? So the delta value is wrong. So let's start from here. Oh yeah, of course it's gonna be wrong, isn't it? Yeah, that's that could possibly be 0, couldn't it? Well, I mean, delta should never really be 0, so we shouldn't have to program for that. The issue isn't here. The issue is in the in here instead. No, game loop. Where are you? What are we passing in as delta? Delta. That's current dot elapsed. Wait, that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be 0. No, that's it's got some nanoseconds right there. Is it that small? We could make it as nanos as well. Is it really that small? Interesting. How you doing today, Raga? You doing good? Alright, hang on. I better check some notifications here. Is it worth my time? Oh, what happened? Anonymous, thank you for a gift sub to buttlotion123. That is someone spent some time coming up with a Twitch username, right? But they weren't as original as 122 other people. You have electricity? That's good, right? Why would this be 0? Let's think about this for a hot minute. Okay, we can inspect the delta. There is 100 nanoseconds. So that's not even 1 microsecond, right? So 1 microsecond in nanosecond is 1,000. So 100 nanoseconds is not even enough to make a microsecond, right? I had 2 people here in Meatspace try it now, Raga. The wife, who unsurprisingly had no issues with it. She just read through a book, basically. Thank you so much, Anonymous, for a gift sub to buttlotion44, who is a little bit faster than the previous one at 123. Right, very, very fast lotion there. Thank you so much, Anonymous. Hello, Celestial. How you doing? So whatever you pick, Araga, it could be just about anything that requires your attention, right? But whether it's reading some Rust books or doing some programming or learning a language, whatever it is that just can benefit from a slice of attention, right? I'm starting it up again, although I didn't do it today because I've been following the schedule all day. Let me see where I'm at with the schedule. When did we start streaming? Yeah. Do you think I get a gift sub if I change my username to buttlotion69? I don't know. I think maybe not, but also would you find it worth it, RJ? What if you want to follow some other streamer who is kind of on the more serious side of things, right? Well, Celestial, you are definitely the major suspect right now. It says 4 minutes ago for the first one and 2 minutes ago for the second one. In here, right? If you want to know Celestial. Whoops, sorry. I bungled that, didn't I? You're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be there. Yeah, no, there. There we go, all right. So here you can see them. 5 and 3 now. Perfect. Very good. 7 more minutes to your pieces. Ready? Well, you can thank Anonymous and Butt Lotions for that. Okay, so let's have a look here then. So this thing is going to return things in nanoseconds. So we could use nanoseconds instead. Render. Let's go to fixed. I wonder if I made a mistake here. I'm guessing not. Because I don't make mistakes. Is that it? Then these can't be from micros. These have to be from nanos. Which again takes a U64. So this should be fine now. Right, yeah, so there's a lot of fixed time steps that happen during this. As a matter of fact, there's 66 of them that should happen, right? So if we say that we do this every quarter of a second, right? So we get these, whoops. That was not right. There's way too many ticks in here for this to be. As a matter of fact, we can see how many ticks there are, right? There are 250. Oh, right. Idiot B. 250 was absolutely correct because we said 250 frames per second, right? If we make it 4, that should be the 250 that I was looking for. There they are, right? So now we're doing this 4 times a second, right? Let's make another step for networking, and that will happen, let's say, twice, right? So we need to tell our loopy to have a approximate time step for networking, and we'll make this function happen like so. Now, there's a couple of things that we want to do as well. We're going to make a builder for this thing because we want to organize this. We want to sort all the timers by the fastest to the slowest for obvious reasons, right? Even though that doesn't quite work the same with fixed, but it's more important for that one though. So sav.timers.push time step. And what do we call this thing, right? So we're going to do fixed for this one. Actually, let's move it like that. Fixed, and that will be a fixed new networking. No. time frame. Oh, you want another one? What do you want? Oh, you want the now. Okay, self dot time. All right, that one says fixed. That's, did I make a fixed one? Yeah, that's wrong. And that should have, okay, so I've put them in the wrong order. All right, that makes sense. So let's go to fixed and change the order, right? Like so. There we go. Expected A duration. Yeah, so self time comes there. Although it doesn't seem to work correctly. So we get one approximation and then we don't get any more approximations. And why is that? So this probably never resets, right? So the accumulator gets the delta added, the delta... No. Okay. I got a sneaky suspicion that if we print out the delta here, this is gonna keep adding, right? Something like that. No, that is correct. Oh. Whoopsie. Anyway, so now we can see the approximation running every second, even though the approximation should run twice per second. However, if we change this to run sleep on 100 milliseconds, now this thing should now work accordingly, right? Oh, nice one, Boris. Yeah, I'm gonna make actual videos out of this. It's on my list. So the stuff that I'm doing today is a little bit before the stuff I'm gonna start doing the video. So I'm gonna start the video series by doing the maths library that we wrote. Even though that's kind of ridiculous for various reasons. One, I'm not very good with maths, and if you were to make your own game engine, you probably would use an existing math library. But because I'm bad at maths, I had to learn maths, right? Let's not print out the tick and the render, right? Feel free to ask me any questions, though. My answers might not be entirely useful. All right, here we go. So you can see this now, 250 milliseconds. That one is running at 500 milliseconds. Is that the right thing to do? Yeah, it's twice. But if we change it to 3, it should now happen with a little bit higher frequency and a little bit more erratic, right? You can see here, we managed to bang out 2 fixed ones before the approximation. That implies, well, actually it doesn't imply anything. This one is going to run correctly because that's an odd, that's an even number, right? If we change this to something like 400 or 150, then it might not, right? If we do this, then this thing might technically give us different numbers, right? But either way, it is now doing, you can see that there's sometimes we get 2 fixed, sometimes we get 1 fixed, right? And that is because the fixed one is allowed to run into the future, right? Do I have a rough idea when the video will come out? So according to my plan, also known as week plan nonsense, which I did yesterday on stream, I should be working on the video after the stream. And I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on the video. I also wrote down 5 ideas for terrible shorts, but I don't know if I'm going to do those. But yeah, I don't know when it will be out, but as soon as possible, right? I'm not going to spend months like I've done in the past, just meandering around. I'm just going to have to start banging out ideas, right? Make your own engine in C++. That sounds pretty fun. Making it small is a good idea, though. Expand the keyword. Reducing the scope. So if you want, I'm not saying this to you specifically, Expand the keyword, but say this in general. If you really want a full-fledged game engine, then don't make it yourself, right? If you need all these things, editors and you know, all the stuff that's there, then use an existing engine, right? Unless you want to spend like a better part of a year or two of your life working on the game engine, right? I mean, that's a possibility. You got to do what you're passionate about, right? Someone telling you don't build a game engine when that's what you want to do, that's just ridiculous, right? If that's what you want to do, then that's what you should do. It's probably also a really good way of understanding how stuff works, right? When you bang out a game engine. Right now, I'm kind of doing it because I don't know exactly the scope or the terms of the game that I want to make yet, like how it all fits together. We'll see. Currently smashing the Rust code with some Unilever math and combining it by implementing the topics in Rust. I'm hoping that's a good approach. The best approach is to do it several times, right? I mean, that's how babies are made as well. No one's going to get it right the first time. Or the bit of wisdom for you right there. But inappropriate jokes aside, I'm basically going to build the game engine again on the video. So I have my hard copy, which are my notes where I doodle and draw down my ideas and how things should work, which is kind of what I did before this video. Then I have the implementation that we get when I'm streaming this. But there's so much stuff that doesn't have to be in the video, like this conversation, right? Although I will add other fluff to the video, right? Because that's just how I am. So I'm going to do this a third time. I've written a UI library for the terminal, and I think I've rolled that one 3, 4, 5 different incarnations of that in the end. So building it once is probably not going to be enough, right? You're going to build it several times. Better get something out. Yeah, you're right, Odyssey. How's the baby doing, by the way? Hello, Kiwi. How you doing? A custom engine in a custom programming language. How many times, Kuberman, do you have to tell people why you're doing that instead of using something like Godot or Unity or Unity or Unreal Engine or Bevy, right? How many times do you get like, oh, use Bevy, right? I don't have any interest in making games. I find engines cool. Yeah, and I understand that for probably tickle the same region of the brain as libraries versus applications. Applications are really messy and unstructured, whereas libraries are built around structure, which is something that most developers want, nay, crave. So we want structure and organization. We want rules that our programs follow, and we want these to be, again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, you make something generic, it is easy to test this and deal with it, right? And then, you know, so I totally understand why people want to make game engines versus games, right? That's fair enough. The Rust book is pretty decent for what, like, it's a free book that will get you started with Rust. I think it's really, really good. I like the book. I even have a hard copy of the book. Let's not mention that I accidentally bought that. It wasn't on purpose. I was going to buy another book, but I didn't want to send it back because you support the project, right? But no, the book is good. It's free to read online. There are plenty of good Rust resources, but once you understand the core concepts of Rust, then you just program like you program, kind of. Well, minus the OOP, if that's where you're coming from, right? The more game engines than games in Rust, absolutely. But then you have so that meme aside, right? Let me show you something that looks really good that's written in Rust. It is called Rust game that is beautiful, and it's called. Okay, Okay, Rust Lang. What's it called, that game? That is not really a game. It's more of a... I was actually expecting to get something here. Tiny Glade. Thank you. Tiny Glade. This is such a beautiful game. And this is made in Rust. It's absolutely beautiful. I think they're using Rust, and they're using a technique, if I remember correctly, that I myself is going to implement at some point, called wave function collapse. And I think the name make it sound a lot fancier than what it is. But yeah, this is made in Rust, and it's really beautiful, really impressive. And yeah, check that out, right? Love the game. That's cool. How you doing, Genus, by the way? I don't get asked that much, actually. Really cool, man. I used to get asked like 2-3 times stream, so in the end I had to put this on there. It's just so I wouldn't have to answer the same question over and over again. But then I was in a bit of a funky frame of mind. So every time someone asked me, I got a little bit like, oh, right. But I realized that people weren't asking to be assholes. They were asking because they were probably curious as to, I mean, someone might have been asking like, are these tools not sufficient? And I totally believe they are, right? I think Godot is probably the best you're going to get as an indie dev, a solo or a pair of you, right? Speaking about this from the perspective of the future. So you might be like, no, hang on, that's not true. Unity has a lot more stuff. Yeah, but Unity could just completely you over at the drop of a hat. So is it really safe to go with Unity? Is like the Northern Rock of game engines, right? It's just whatever, right? Unreal Engine, I don't know if they've done anything or not, but I think Godot is like plenty strong, plenty fancy, plenty hype to build a lot of the games that people want to build, right? If you need something specific and you possess the skill to implement these exuberant specific things, then you're not a person who would ask that question, right? If you understand how to implement a lot of stuff from scratch, you've evaluated a bunch of engines, so on and so forth, then this monologue isn't for you, right? Because you already know that. But if you wake up one day and go, holy shit, my life's gonna be over soon, I better make a game quickly, existential dreads, and you gotta hop to it, right? Then Godot is plenty fine. It might be, if you're gonna do something that the engine is a limit for, like the engine's gonna limit you to, most likely you don't know how to do that anyway. And once you figure out how to do that, the engine itself doesn't really matter at that point. Then you've evaluated enough. So it's a little bit like children arguing which motorbike to get when they grow up, right? You can talk about the Busa if you want, or the ZZR, which is really an old man bike, let's be honest now. Or the VFR 800 or a Firebird or whatever, right? But the reality is you're still riding a trike, so shut up, right? Isn't that from that Swedish company? That Swedish company? Are you thinking about Embark Studios, which are heavily invested in Rust? They made the finals, which was some kind of arena shooter. I don't know how well that did. That was not written in Rust though. That was Unreal Engine, but they wrote a lot of the tooling in Rust. Is that? But I don't think that's Tiny Glade. I think Tiny Glade is some indie, tiny indie thing, right? Thank you so much, Glam. Thank you so much. What are we milking today? We're milking the Kool-Aid. We're drinking the Rust Kool-Aid. One of the coolest building mechanics is so smooth. Yeah, and I think that comes from wave function collapse, right? But I might be wrong. Godot is great for sure, and it's steadily improving. Absolutely. There are lots of games made in Godot. One of the games, like a really, really cool game, if you guys haven't seen it. If you're not following Jotson, then and you're into game dev, then you should, right? Jotson kind of sits on that like fine line between indie dev, but also made and released commercial projects, and he's a streamer. There's like a couple of them out there. Spagus is one of them, right? He works with Unity and has made Starjuice, which is pretty cool. I need to play more of that. Hey, Cat Person, how you doing, buddy? How you going? Someone tricked me to believe you were in chat earlier, and I was like, what? And then you weren't. How you doing, buddy? So Spagus is one of them, and the other guy who works with an existing engine is Jotson, right? And he works with Linux as well. So it's Linux, Godot, and commercial game development, which is a nice trifecta. And he's a good resource to ask if you guys want to know anything about stuff. I think the person who seemed to have his hand on the pulse of game dev economics is probably Tim, all right? Tim seemed to know. I've heard him talk, and he's got very grounded and sound ideas when it comes to financials and economics of game dev. I'm good, mate. Chat person. I'm good. Good. Are you at work? Yeah, I think God is great for 2D. It's probably pretty good for 3D as well at this point, right? I thought it was from Mbok Studios, but no, it's not. Yeah, I think Mbok is doing larger titles. I think they're kind of closer to the AAA stuff than this, right? Is your game done now? Can I play test? Not quite, Talk. The best game engine to use is the one you get the most done with. Yes. God is awesome, absolutely. He made Dome Keeper. Thank you, Glam. That's what I was going. Dome Keeper is a really cool game that is made with Godot, and it works on Linux as well, right? This is a very cool. Hang on, 2022? Really? I thought it was more recent than that. So this game is the essence of it is that you're supposed to take care of this dome on some alien planet, and you're mining down, finding resources to upgrade these things. There's like two steps, right? You got the one where the mobs are attacking, and when you're getting resources. So that's kind of the game loop of it. But this is great. Jotson worked on this. I don't know if he built almost all of this himself. I know he did this for another company or publisher. So I can't really say how much he did, but he did plenty. Okay. I just don't know if it's correct to say that he pretty much did the whole game. I don't know if that might be wrong to say. But this is really cool. Wow, they added a lot of new features. This is really cool. It's got a cool game loop. It's pretty difficult. And it's a very good game, right? It's very good. That's made in Godot. He did Gravity Ace as well. I wonder if that was like one of his first games he released. That was alright, but I think Dome Keeper was a bit more fun. No time to play Starjuice. There's Balatro. There is a Balatro, that's right. Work. Oh, well, at least Cat Peasant. At least we have YouTube. Hate people that are good at what they do. Well, you don't need to get good, Talk. You just need self-delusion, right? Anastasia Opara behind Tinyglade is an ex-Mbok studio. Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. Time flies in the post-COVID times. Yeah. Okay, so we've sort of done this now. 2 hours in. Look what happens when you when you actually think before you program, right? What a disaster. There you go, Talk. There you go. You got it. I think we tend to make things more magical than they are, and we tend to underestimate things as well, right? We're walking this odd balance, right? It's like, making a game, there'll be a weekend project. and then it's like 10 lifetimes later. Why doesn't it work, right? Or like a TUI library. How quick, how long, how much time can that take? Not a lot, right? And then a lifetime later, right? Or you look at something that looks completely magical as seen from afar, but when you sort of start scratching the surface and unpacking it, you realize that it's actually quite simplistic. So it's all self-delusion, right? Okay, so we got this thing working now. We can try to do this thing. Let's say that we do this twice per second, right? That should have run in almost lockstep. But you can see the approximation is taking 600 milliseconds instead. And that's because of this. So there we go, right? Here we end up in one thing where this thing has, as far as the approximation is concerned, which happens 600 here, and then this one jumps twice. Thank you so much, Ramadan. Thank you so much. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, so I think as far as we're concerned, this you can't handle the sub. Oh, I missed these alerts. Thank you so much, Harmadon. To username. Wait, that one had a bug in it. It said to username. I have to fix that. Oh, they just say username. I gotta fix this. I'm good, Anna. How you doing? I still haven't managed to catch any of your streams. How you doing, Anna? Okay, let's go. Let's fix the alerts. Actually, let me just leave a to-do for myself to fix the alerts instead. Maybe it won't take long. Let's see, text and speech. No, and not that one, and not that one. Okay, so it's gift subs. There we go. There are so many of them. Files must comply and not violate terms. Okay, yeah, calm down, Twitch. Which one was it that broke? Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I'm trying to fix them. They're broken. Hang on. Where is the text? Where is the text? Text and speech. That one just says sender. So does that one. So does that one. So does that one. That one's... Oh yeah, that's... Okay, the different amounts. There we go. That's why. 2. And that one says username there. So that one is correct. All right. That one's correct. That one's correct. That one... Is it Twitch that's knackered? Every one of them that I'm looking at is correct. I can't find one where the username placeholder is wrong. What? No, they all look right. I don't know what's going on then. Why does it just say username? Okay, I'm gonna assume that Twitch is broken and not me. Thank you again, Armadon, for 1, 2, 3, 4 gift subs. Thank you so much. Username is getting all the subs, yeah. But yes, indeed. It's always Twitch. Yeah, I'll have to go and look at that after the stream then, right? Okay, but I think we've fixed this thing now, right? Username gets all the love, right? So we have the steps working. We kind of have a game loop as well in this case, right? Now we have to add something to this, which is What are we missing? So we got the rendering part. Okay, let's see what it would look like. So we got the networking step added. So we would do this like 20 times, and that would be 66 times. The rendering is kind of detached from that. We could have input sampling as well, running at 60 frames per second, right? That would be input. Okay, so this is all well and good, but none of this actually allows us to do anything with these timers, right? They're kind of a little bit useless. So now the next thing we need to do is actually allow external influences on the timers, right? So when we go to set up our game loop, how much hair do we have to deal with in this life? A lot, apparently. So let's actually make this thing do something. There are a couple of ways we can do this. Either we can implement traits for them that we associate with a time step, right? We could pass in a closure that gets the delta time, it gets the current time, and that's it, right? So that would be one way of doing it as we add these. But setting up closures for a game loop is a little bit new, right? The rendering part will not be. The rendering part is fine. The same thing for the physics step. That one kind of have to be the way it is. I think what we could do, okay, we can try to throw some rubbish at this thing and see if it breaks down, right? So let's say that we run physics, and we're also going to run not physics for a similar duration. And we're going to do this 1 second at a time. Let's say that we do this once a second, right? So instead of having approximate, we're going to have fixed here. And we're going to pass in not physics. Now we have to make this function, otherwise this isn't going to work. And let's make this thing mutable. Let's pass in the time frame. And let's return nothing. And we're going to push another timer on there. Say hello to my little sub. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Alright, so the entire chat scrolled by. So if you guys need me to read something, you have to at me. There are good place apps to, I don't know. Thank you so much, Temporis. All right, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Thank you, thank you. That's gonna be fixed. I think Temporis is just so enamored with my incredible programming skills that he just didn't know what to do with himself. Oh, you guys are talking about that. Yeah, if you have to use Adobe products, you don't have much of a choice, right? It's kind of Windows or Mac. Someone made a pretty good video about this, which is kind of interesting. By learning these tools as part of your education, you're now tied to these tools. So as a student, you have access to the tools. As an employee, you have access to these tools. But as a person that you are or will be when you leave your education, and between education and employment, you have to pay to stay up to date with these tools, right? Which is why these tools are somewhat dangerous. But there was a person who made a video on this. Okay, let's see if this is enough to find the person. Maybe not. They were talking about 3D Studio Max, and let's do 3D Studio Max, affordable, and then bad. Maybe that's no. Oh, good grief! I wish I remember the video because it was pretty good, and they talked about what kind of happens when but this is about tools that are prohibitively expensive, right? So Adobe products, you can give them a monthly subscription and get yourself financially violated that way. But yeah, well, I kind of find this thing, right? um it's not really just my idea. It comes from this video. This person who invested a lot of energy and time into 3D Studio, right? Why don't I write 3DX 3D Studio? That's why I'm not finding the video, right? But I wish I could find it because it's a good watch, and they kind of talk about how this thing has become difficult to stay up to date with. So the longer you are out of work, the longer you have to keep paying for it, and you can buy these stupid tokens as well, and it's really not good. I think they had like a really funny take on the tokens, but how sad that I can't find the video now, because it was truly entertaining to watch. I thought it was a good video. They had some very good takes in there, right? But that's what we do. It's not just that, right? The one thing, there are software that is free. There's software that you buy them, right? And then they're free to use. DaVinci Resolve is one of those, right? Until they realize that they can just now you're not getting any more updates, and now you have to pay a subscription, right? It's just a matter of time until that happens to everything. We're trying to get like subscription into hardware already, and it's kind of gross enough, right? Yeah, you have to pay to cancel. If you cancel your subscription early, you have to pay, right? I don't know if Wine actually can run Adobe stuff though. Yeah, that's why they do student discounts. I mean, this is why they introduce like Apple iPads in school as well, right? You get the kids indoctrinated into using Apple products, so that's what they know when they leave school. So they just go out and buy into the ecosystem, right? It's like a really horrible process where you get like you're not going to get a lot of Linux in the education system, maybe at university level, but it's also understandable because teachers can't be expected to know Linux. They're expected to teach the kids basics of maths and history and stuff, not be IT nerds, right? Hello, Danaka. How you doing? Yeah, they're not just insane talk. They are scary. They're outright scary, but they are destroying themselves because people. It's like this. If I can't afford to buy the software that I need to use when I'm working for your company, right? If I can only use it through your company, then what happens when I leave your company, right? I stop using the software. I stop being up to date with the software because I can't afford to use it. So the next time I go to work, I have fallen a bit behind, right? And if there's a long period, then you've fallen quite far behind. So when you're hiring, your options will soon become student who just graduated knowing the tools, or someone who has experience but a big gap. So what's going to happen? The industries will adapt to other tools, right? Which is why DaVinci Resolve is so good, which is why Blender is becoming industry standard, right? So Blender is free. You can stay up to date with Blender if you want to, right? Whether you got work or not. But if you have to pay several $1,000s a year or whatever to use the software that is industry standard, then you can't when you're not working, right? It's just an insane setup. Now, Adobe doesn't charge that much, but they are effectively doing the same thing. So now artists who draw and illustrate, they are probably likely to afford the Adobe products, even when they're out of work or in between jobs. So they haven't really priced themselves out just yet, but they're kind of heading in that direction, right? Have you used Windows virtual machines in Linux? Yes, Rajanova, because my audio interface is not, I can't upload things to it other than through Windows. So I have. Drug dealers giving samples at school store. Yeah, it's like Tempora's giving me Balacho. Okay. They should teach how to install Arch, by the way. Yes, every teacher needs to know how to do that. Right? Fall detection for the watches. Everyone runs out and buys Nanodoris and iPhone, Apple Watch. What? They developed fall detection for the watches? Yeah. That okay, yeah, sorry, RJ. For some reason I kept like thinking kids and be like, that can't work. They fall down all the time, right? I remember when I was a kid, I was basically flying down the stairs every other day, right? Krita, Blender, GIMP, and so on. Yeah, as a hobby photographer, there's really good tools in Linux that's comparable to Lightroom, and that's Darktable. Sadly, GIMP doesn't really compare to Photoshop when it comes to retouching, but I don't do that much retouch. I don't do high fashion photography or model photography anyway, so it's not an issue. Blender is good. Raptor. Oh, what's Raptor like? DaVinci is really good. I like Inkscape. I kind of swap between Inkscape, GIMP, and Krita for my graphics meandering, right? Yeah, I paid for Sprite 4 times. I still have some licenses to give out, but I haven't done so yet. Yeah, Blender is really nice. It depends on what you're gonna do with it, Rashinova. But I'd say just take it for a spin, right? You can always boot Linux from a flash drive and just see what it's like. As like the running it from a flash drive or running it from a hard drive is not, there's not really any difference once you load the program into memory, right? The thing that takes time and it's going to feel slow is reading from disk, but that's going to be too slow anyway when you're doing any of this stuff. So just to get a feel for how it works, you can just boot it off a flash drive and see what it's like, right? Darktable is uncomfortable UX-wise. Really? I think Darktable is really pleasant. It has a little bit too much control, right? But Darktable is absolutely fantastic. I had very little issue transitioning from Lightroom to Darktable. The only thing I missed from Lightroom was that it organized my pictures as well. But knowing that Adobe wants to jam everything to their gross cloud and then charge you for that, I'm quite happy I never really invested too much into that feature. Blazingly fast. Yeah, Inkscape is a little bit dodgy. It doesn't matter. All good, Rashinova. Okay, that was a nice digression. Let's see what happens when we run a fixed times. We run 2 fixed time steps. In this case, we're gonna have to give this thing some kind of label. Otherwise, we won't know which is which, right? So let's pass a label into our fixed step here. And we just use a static string for this stuff. So this one's going to be our physics step. So we can just name it physics. Right, and you need a label as well. So this will be not physics then, right? Now we have to do something with this. We're not. So let's just go here and instead of saying fixed, or we can say fixed here. And then this will just be the label, right? Okay, they are running pretty much the same time. This looks good. What happens if we bump this to twice a second? I don't know why I expected. Let's say that we run this every 2 seconds. So we should get double steps now. Double time. There we go. Yeah, so it's double for everyone then, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we have dependable physics. We have steps for sampling, and we have steps for rendering. So the only thing we have to do now is start making this sort of tie in with the functionality. We should probably keep the label so it's a little bit more legible. We don't need to build time, like user-defined runtime timers, like timers that can be added and removed during runtime, because we have what was I gonna say? I don't remember. I don't remember at all. Yeah, if you want to build a timer in game, right, then you have both the delta time and the actual runtime in the runtime. So you can implement your own timer that way. So if you're doing things like adjusting cooldowns, don't use the physics step for that, because again, it might step into the future to do things. Instead, you have this variable rate that's going to get correct delta time instead. There's too few lifetimes in this game, and absolutely too many allocations. We only have one allocation, but I hear you. We're going to get rid of that allocation. Absolutely. No premature optimization. Lifetimes are scary. I don't think so. My keyboard even has a dedicated button for a lifetime, right? That's how non-scary they are, right? I have the lifetime. Bam, lifetime, right? So we want labels for logging, and we could get rid of the allocations, right? How do we do that? We are going to start with a builder, right? That lifetime button is a straight up optimization, right? Let's make a struct called a loop builder here. And for this thing, we're gonna get the timers in here. I don't think that's true though, Cuber, but why not? Let's say that we have the physics here as well, which is an option of fixed step. We're gonna skip the renderer in here. And we don't need these two either, right? So let's implement the loop. And this thing is called finish, and it takes ownership of self, and it's going to return a loop instead. So we're going to have a loop here, and we're going to have time. Actually, we're going to make this private, and we're just going to call... let's make this loop builder... Let's make this thing generic. Okay, now we're going to do something, okay? Now we're doing something here, okay? There we go. Ain't that a beauty? Okay, so now we can call loop new sap.physics.0. And what else do we need? That's it. Oh, it's expecting a duration. Right? And then this new function is now private, so you can't use that, but we can have a pub function builder that creates a loop builder instead. And what kind of loop builder is this creating? Well, that's quite obvious, don't you think? It's the no physics loop builder, where physics is no physics and the timers is an empty vec. But wait, there is more. Okay, no physics is private. Yes. There we go. Okay. So right, we're passing no physics in there, which means that we are gonna get our loop. So why would we do that? What's the benefit of doing that, right? What can you get to make, please? There, right? So if we do loopy.finish, which gives us the loop, there is no finish function in that one, right? So we should say dot physics, and then we're gonna pass in the physics thing there. So let's add this function here. This will take ownership of self, and it will return loop builder physics, right? Which is going to be loop builder with the timers is out of timers, and physics is going to be physics like that. There's a lot of physics in here, right? But wait, we're not there yet. We have to make one more change. We have to implement the loop builder for no physics. Oh, those curly brackets looks a little bit funky, don't they? There we go. So now, thanks to the power of the beautiful type system, you can't create the game or a game loop without physics. And once you've added the physics, you can't add physics again because that doesn't exist, right? Build a pattern for the win. Type state pattern for the win as well, right? And now we can finish the thing. And what are we going to do with this thing, right? Well, we kind of said that we have way too many allocations going on in here. And even though we're not actually going to reduce the number of allocations, we are going to do something rather silly here, right? But before we do that, let's do this. Git add. No, not git add. What are we adding this thing now? We have no time. We have a time step there. Let's delete that time step. Okay, that time step is rubbish. So let's copy the time step from here into projects Rust game engine bungin client source. Although it shouldn't be in there. It should be in a more common thing, but at least we want to keep it, right? Heroes my GitHub. I don't know if I want that.
Okay, so back to game lol instead of game loop. So what can we do? Well, we could chain the timers, right? So the first thing we need to do when we finish it, we need to take our self dot timers and then sort them. Now, we don't have to use unstable sort. It's a little bit silly, but we can. So now we have to compare A to, we can do a partial compare of A to B. Okay, why is that a sensible thing to do? Well, we want to sort this in such a way that the thing with the smallest time step is gonna run first, right? But we can't sort this now, right? Wait, why is there no unstable sort by? No. Unstable sort by. Am I thinking about something else? Sort unstable by, not unstable sort. Okay. There we go. So this partial compare doesn't work, right? For the time step, but that's okay. We're going to fix that. So we're just going to implement partial odd for time step. And we're going to do a partial comparison of, and let's just fix this as well, right? I don't love that. So we're going to say self, and we're going to match on self. Actually, what should be, we could do something like, oh, this means that, no, we can't do this. It would mean that no delay would fire first. Okay, so we have to do this, okay? Let's match on self. There we go, right? And we can unwrap in this test code. That's not a problem. We can add debug for all of these because that would make sense. No reason not to. And since we renamed this thing, we don't need to depend on that path either, right? Already, so we need partial equal here. Partial equal. We need that for fix as well. And no delay. No delay. There we go, right? So we can make the, since the instant doesn't actually have one, we can run the instant last, right? So if we have no delay, we can just return some ordering less. I think that's the right thing. And then again, time step becomes replaced by self. And then in this case, we're going to do some ordering greater. So it's always less or greater in these cases. And we're going to grab this bit of code here and put it there. And we should add a comma in there for good measure. So in this case, that's always less. Otherwise, it's always greater. So we always put the instant ones at the very end. And so I guess we could sort them like this. If both of these are approximate, right? That's the left-hand side. That's the right-hand side. That's the right-hand side. That one we don't care about. Don't care. Whoopsie. Don't care. left hand side, right hand side. Now I don't know if we should. So this is all a rather silly thing that I'm doing right now for non-obvious reasons. But I don't know if we should give precedence to approximate over fixed, right? Or rather fixed over approximate. So fixed is always first. So fixed comes before all else, right? And then here, if it's an approximate, then this would be the opposite. And then finally here, we're just gonna compare left-hand side dot frame time, really. Partial equal to right-hand side of frame time. Now we have to pass in reference here, right? Frame time. And that's it. So we're just gonna make this thing pub to the crate so we can do the comparison, right? What? There's no... Oh, hang on. Partial equals. Partial compare, right? There we go. Oh, no, that's approximate. No, we said that these were the same, so that should be fixed. And that's approximate. So AA, FF, yeah, that's great. Okay, that's right. And then here we'll do the same thing for these things. So one will happen before the other, right? And now we just have to make this pub to the crate as well, right? So now it doesn't matter what order we add our time steps to this. The physics step will run separate from everything else. And we will finish off with the rendering. And in between, we can run all these time steps, right? But it's not sufficient to just advance the time step. And here's the awkward bit. The delta is always fixed, so it's the same delta. So we could, if we wanted to, have a generic for the time step. And this is where it's going to get a little bit funky now. So we're adding physics. Let's add another time step, right? So we add another fixed time step, not physics. All right, and then we add another fixed one for lol, right? We need something. There we go. I just wanted to go down on a different, on a different line, that's all. All right, so let's generate the fixed function. Apparently not. Why are you griping at me? This goes on the physics one, right? So you can only do this here. Then what we're returning is self, right? As per the builder pattern. That takes ownership of self. It needs a mutable reference to that. So really what we're going to do here is self.timers.push, not physics, or in this case, time frame, right? And then return self. And that's it, right? That has to be supposed to be a physics, no, fixed new. Oh, we need a label as well, right? Let's add a label. What do you want? You want a label, frame time, and now. So the now thing is a little bit awkward. I guess we can pass in now into the builder as well, right? So time is an instant. Then time is instant now, like so. And when we create this with a loop new, we have to pass in self dot time as well, right? So we will change you to take time instant. Actually, we call that now as we pass it in, and that fixes that. That one has a label and time frame, and that's gonna be our fixed. Yes. 3 arguments. So label. Is it the now that we need? Yeah. All right. So self.now. Nope. Self.time. Expected time step. Okay. So then time step is time step fixed label time frame and self.time. And that is time step. Okay. No. All right, you are being silly. Okay. So, ooh, Nelly, where did I add the now? Here. That's the loop bit. Why does the loop bit? Oh yeah, because of the physics thing. Yeah, okay, so that one has to be self.time. I bungled that one, didn't I? All right, and then here, time is instant now. That makes more sense. There we go, right? How often will I pull for inputs? That depends on how we configure the game loop, right? Not this lol thing. Right, so, okay, so now we built this up and we get our loopy. We can run our loopy. This should not work. All right, we're gonna get rid of this function. This function is boo. We shouldn't add time steps once it's running, right? Right, let's change you to 200 for no reason whatsoever, because it's still gonna do the same thing. It's just the physics. Why is it not running the other stuff though? Am I not pushing this to self-time? I do. That's kind of weird. Why is that not happening? Didn't I add the for loop here? Yeah. We should be advancing this, right? We can sleep as much as you want, Sudo. Okay, something is really wrong here. There are no timers. That's why. Idiot. There we go. Okay, so that's better. That's self.time. That's gonna be self-time. Physics is self.physics.0. Fixed. Physics. And time frame is self-physics 0. Oh, it's not a time step. Okay. Easy then. Render, we don't care. But here the timers should be self.timers. Now we should see some more. There we go. You will have to release the lock eventually or we'll be deadlocked. Okay. Now we're doing this just to be silly, okay? So we're gonna make this into something called timers instead. Right. So this is a time step. Let's make a struct called timers. Now this is gonna be generic. Okay, so that is gonna be generic over T. Like so. Why can't we find timers in here? That's why. We'll make it public to the crate as well. All this just because of that comment about allocations, right? And this thing's gonna be generic over T. We're gonna get what that is shortly. And then now we need to break the timers up into, well, we can't really unless we make this generic up here as well, right? So this is loop build the physics, this is fixed. That's not going to return self. Okay, so this one has to have timers, right? Okay. Is this doable? No, this will be infinite, right? So if we were to import chain time step, no, we couldn't. We would have to make that as an actual chain, right? Now, this could be either a time step, a chain, or nothing, which makes this look more like an enum than anything, right? So the first one has to be a time step, right? We could make this as a trait for advanced. Like so. Then this is gonna be A and B, where A is A and B is B. Okay, very surprising. But in this case, we are going to implement the advance for time step. And then we're just going to take this code here and put it in here. Minus that. Let's get rid of that one for now. Stop trying to build this because now we're making a beautiful hot mess in here. Just for fun, no other reason. There's no actual benefit to doing it this way. It's just mildly entertaining myself. So we're gonna implement the advance for single timer. Okay, we'll just do, we'll go to loop here. Yeah, we're not done with this one yet. So the timers are gonna disappear. And instead here, instead of pushing the timer, we're gonna change self, right? Where did I put that that silly code now? There we go. So we're gonna implement it for this. And we're gonna implement it for the chain as well. And this one is gonna be a little bit easier. So that'll be the chain, A and B. And in this case, A and B both have to implement advanced, right? So the first thing we're gonna do is advance A. And it doesn't return anything, and then advance B, right? So now we can chain multiple of these together. We can implement single timer and have a function called chain here that takes ownership of self, and it's going to return a chain where the where A is self.0 and B, actually that one has to take something that implements advance. That's gonna be B. Okay, so now we can chain these two together. I don't know, Rajanova. There is something called the Linux Laptop Project, or TLP something, right? TLP. That might have something. Maybe this is the one to look into, right? TLP. But I don't know for sure, right? My laptop battery has been dead for years. My laptop is probably something like 6-7 years old or whatever at this point. Oh, too hairy. Too fast, too hairy-ious. Okay, so we can chain a single timer. We're gonna be able to chain a chain as well, right? So let's have an impl of chain A and B. And then we have a chain function. Thank you, Rashino. Well, I know because I have looked into these things like many years ago. I did optimize my laptop battery on my laptop. I had like 8-hour battery life on that laptop. Again, this laptop is from 2017 or 16 maybe, right? It would be Rust. 35 minutes of battery, don't love it. No, it's right. Batteries, they kind of die, don't they? But what can you do, right? So here we're gonna have C and B is now C. It's gonna be A and is that right? Hello Lumen, how you doing? So then this thing becomes a new chain where A is self.b and this is other B. This is so insane. How's it going? It's going really good, thank you. I think we're good now. So we can effectively chain timers together, right? You want to stream with Linux? I mean, it's really good though, Rushanova, for me. I have no issues with it whatsoever. Feel free to join my Discord. I'm happy to share with you my stream settings and all the things that you might want to know about streaming, ranging from like bit rates to setting up your filter, your chat filter to not get 6 billion spam bots and at the same time not ignoring people and whatever, right? Hello, Prevan. How you doing? Yeah, go for it. I'm happy to share. Okay, so now when we add a fixed time step to this thing, we're going to return. So we need another generic on this thing, right? So loop builder is going to be generic over T as well. Yeah, over T, where T is going to be our timers, okay? And we'll start off when we make a new one, before we set the physics, we will have... Actually, at this point, we could have other ones. Hello, Sushi, how you doing? Waiting for CI? Wow, it's always something, isn't it, right? It's always some fun. And this is going to return a loop builder with T. Again, because the physics doesn't do anything there. Like, we're just accumulating errors. Let's just turn errors off. We don't need it, right? I don't know what that means, but it's all right, Sushi. Did you trip and fall on caps lock today? I'm building really silly things for fun now. All right, so this is gonna be not returning self anymore. It's gonna return a loop builder that is generic over physics, and we need something here. So timers is not gonna be self.timers, is it? Yes, it will. But here we're gonna take timers and we're gonna chain them together. So really, the no timer thing is kind of silly, right? Then hop to it, Sushi. We'll make one. Make one in lockstep with me. Learn from my mistakes. Don't be excessively hairy. That's my one mistake. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of this no timer, single timer business, right? We don't need that. Instead, we're just gonna have time step and chain that contains either a time step or a chain, right? So this one might work. Although that one is a little bit weird. Instead, why isn't this self and this is B? That would make more sense, right? The only difference is how we kind of position them. That's all, right? Too busy building your language. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, building a language does take a lot of time and effort. It's quite fun though. So, okay, so now we're just going to add a function to advance called chain takes ownership of self and returns a chain where that is self and B. That should do the trick. Welcome to Discord, Rashi. This one doesn't actually need a unique implementation. We can just take the chain here and do A self and B is other, and that's done. So chaining works for everything now. So we don't have to write a chain here for the chain itself, since it implements advanced, right? Hopefully this is like, people are making sense of this, all right? Okay, so in our loop builder, we start off with having a node timer. We could do this as, what should we do for this thing? Okay, now it's a little bit silly because we end up with nothing here. So for this to make sense, we kind of have to set the first timer to physics, right? It is fun. I think like writing lexers and parsers are it's very like chill work and fun to do, very structured and organized, right? It's when you get to evaluators and stuff that it gets a little bit hairy, but I absolutely love the pret parser stuff too. Okay, so what are we doing here? So we're adding a fixed one here. So that means that if we implement chain or advance for a unit, then that would be good. I think one of Caleb's friends did that expanded cuber. Or was it Caleb that did that? That's fun. Yeah, programming is really fun, right? Okay. All right, thanks for hanging out, Sudo. Enjoy the rest of your day. Why did I start this? Yeah, so if we go back to, we got one more thing to do, right? For the mod, we have to write an advanced implementation, not for the time step, but for a unit. And this thing will do nothing, right? This one will panic. Should not be used, okay? Which is fun. But we're also going to implement the chain for this thing. Oh, we can't. Oh, that's what I was kind of hoping that we could get around. So in this case, we would just return B. And we would just return other here. The problem with that is that it's not going to be what this thing wants. It would be a different kind of chain in that case. Oh, boo. I did mention a programming language that uses JSON since it could be used as a textual AST. Yes, a good thing. I remember what you were the one who talked about it. Oh man, this is now a programming exercise instead. We kind of already solved what I was supposed to solve, so now I've gone down the rabbit hole of playing with the type system instead. And I was hoping that we could avoid the chain for the unit. So let's make this thing. Yeah, we can't do that. We need to get rid of the unit. So when we call fixed on this, and if we call fixed here, we're going to return a different type. So it's a little bit of duplicate nonsense here, but then that will have a time step instead as its generic type. This one will have a chain of t and time step. Could that be right? If we bring the chain is not here. Okay. Yes, that's right. That's what you were doing. Because sometimes programmers be like that, right? All right, this one has no timers. So we're going to say that timers is a unit. That means that, yeah, so we already encoded that. Now we got more errors than when we started, right? How would that be, Sushi? Do you mean like you don't have a graphical editor at all? Or is the graphical editor embedded into your editor? Or how does it work, right? Yeah, that's what I was wondering, Caleb, but I didn't want to say anything in case I kind of misunderstood that, right? So here we're returning this with a time step. So self.timers, or rather it's not self anymore. We're returning a loop builder, right? Yeah, and for that you can use something like tiled, right? Tiled is pretty cool. You can do a lot. I probably will write something to support tiled for what I'm doing. Infinite maps. Surely there are more games and more frequent games. Axiom Verge is so good. Have you guys played Axiom Verge? I really enjoyed it. I didn't play the second one though. And I'm certainly not gonna buy a new Nintendo, so I could play it on the old one, but you know. So that's the timer now, and then physics is self.physics. And time is self.time. And loop builder should be capitalized. Wait, why you know physics? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. That can't be. Why was that ever working? That kind of worked. That's just straight up silly. So physics will add that one. Okay, yeah, I'm being a silly. I'm being an absolute silly. This is an import block for loop builder that is generic over physics. Like so. Wait, why are you griping at me now? Duplicate definition of fixed. Ah, that's why. We don't have specialization, so we can't do this. Although that would have kind of, well, no, but we can't have fixed here. We can only have that for, this can only work for no physics, which is kind of rubbish. So what have you done for your virtual machine, right? Is it just a straight up bytecode interpreter, or have you done anything else with it? Are you doing like ahead of time and JIT and all these things? Oh, I see. Okay, that's cool. Then no JIT needed. It's just straight up compile, right? Are you gonna what's your target then? Assembly or LVMIR or so this can't be done because both this unit and T implement advanced. So this fixed function is true for both of these, right? Which is why we can't have that. We could do this if we say no physics, but that doesn't work here. PewDiePie make final push. I'm changing. Oh, what's that? What's this? I think saw this in my YouTube feed that PewDiePie was changing to Linux, but I couldn't watch that. I tried to watch Linus Tech Tips use Linux, and the guy's looking at his screen, and he goes, if you do this, it will wipe everything. And he goes, okay. And then he's surprised why everything's gone. And I'm like, no, I can't watch this again. And there was someone else who also tried to run Linux, and I just like, what? PewDiePie seems into it. Okay, I'll watch the video then. I don't know when, because I have a schedule now, and I'm very excited about that. Okay, so how do we do this without having to have something stupid? I know talk, but yesterday's stream, I was kind of falling apart a little with everything that's happening here, with like the house situation and everything, and I'm like, come on, man, I just can't deal. But rather than sulking and crying in the corner, I figured I'd just make a schedule to get my life back in some kind of direction, right? Whenever you get it to the point where this is the life coach portion of the stream, right? Whenever you get to the point where you kind of just treading water and you feel a bit stuck and things are not going forward, moving backwards instead, then make a plan, right? Make a plan for some course of action, even if you just write down what you're gonna do the next 2 days. That really helps, right? Now, so we paid a bunch of money for a company to come here and fix and replace like pipes and stuff. They had to like dig up a property and everything, and they fixed the plumbing allegedly. And then the other day, the toilet just blew up again, and there was like sewage water all over the floor, leaked in under the new floor. So that's gonna have to be ripped out and everything. And we had someone come out and deal with this, and sort of we had like one of those pumps that come in and like pump all the stuff out of the pipes and such. And when the wife asked the guy, what's the issue? And he told her, and she's like, we had someone come in and fix that. Does it look like they haven't done anything at all? And he's like, yeah. Or rather, she asked, was it worth the money? And he just laughed. So what we think has happened, because there was a lot of faffing around with that, is that they came in, couldn't do the job. They did some really odd hodgepodge stuff, and they just left. That's what we think they've done now. And there are evidence indicating that's the case. So we're waiting to hear back from them now. And the thing that breaks my brain a little bit in this is that we spent a lot of money on this, And so it all kind of came in twofold, right? The wife was changing jobs, so she's gonna have to start doing a long commute. So I said, okay, take all our savings and buy yourself a nice car then, right? She did. And then this nightmare happened and we had to spend all that money. And we got a little bit of savings now. So we were gonna go on a holiday this summer. But if we have to pay to have someone else fix this again, we're basically we're where you are if you're like 18, 19 in life, if that happens, right? Because it's just been like a constant drain, right? Put a line on the business. I mean, there's not much I can do, right? First of all, I'm a foreigner. No one cares what I think over here. That's not at all true. That's not how it works. I just don't know the politics or the bureaucracy, rather, of this country. I don't pay attention to it. I have no idea how things work here. I don't know what consumer rights I have or anything. I mean, they might as well just go, no, we're not giving you anything. And I'll be like, okay, but that's not cool. And they'll be like, what are you going to do about it? And I will happily take legal action towards anyone who's doing this. And I'm happy to remortgage my house in the name of justice if I have to, because having someone scam you, if that's what they've done, I don't know that. But if they literally scammed us out of money, we're not rich people, okay? If they scammed us out of money, that is so incredibly gross that I won't stand for it, right? You bounce back, yeah. I'm too stoic to care, right? But in that sense, but it did get me a little bit yesterday, right? It did kind of get me a little bit, and I was griping and crying in the corner on stream a little bit. It's like, oh, poor me, right? Oh, no, not really, but yeah. I think it's sort of a, you know, in Sweden we have strong consumer protections. Here we would sue the shit out of them, and I have legal protection in my insurance. That's cool. Should I come over and we do it over there? No. Well, I was gonna say I wish I was in Sweden, but I'm not, so I can't really reap those benefits. But yeah, no. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know, this is just life, right? It is what it is, right? Anyway, there's no point in crying about that. Let's just get on with this thing, right? Now, can this be done? That is the question, right? Do I have a Twitch watch? Not really. Well, I have a YouTube channel though, Sushi. If you go to, let me find it. YouTube.com togglebit-live. I think that's it, right? If you check that one out, that should be the VODs there. Back to work, indeed, right? Legality of the moon is iffy, to say the least, right? Yeah. Okay, so we can't do this because it returns something different. We can't have negative types. What we could do is maybe we can express this. Can we say chain T here? No, that would imply 2. I mean, it could be. And then could we do this then? mismatch parameters, then that has to become S. Okay, and no timer push there, right? We can't return self, but wait, this could... No, surely this can't work, right? Well, this is... Okay, this is even dumber now. This is now generic over nothing here. So this is just time step. Like this. And then that returns that. Okay. This thing exists for everything, like so. It can't return self. Can't sort timers. All right, because we can't sort the timers now, then this doesn't work anyway. Can we unroll? Let's go somewhere else, right? Right, so let's say that we have the struct called time step here, okay? And then we're gonna have a trait called advance. And it has two functions. It has advance and it has chain. It takes ownership of self and returns a chain of self and B, where self is sized. Oops, that's not how you write sized. And that needs a bracket like that, right? Then we can return a chain here where we have A is self and B is other, right? Okay, that works fine. We don't have a struct called chain yet, but we will shortly. Okay, so we can do this to chain anything that is a time step. So we can now have that be a time step, and then that could be t1.chain time step. But we haven't implemented advance for the time step, so that's missing. So we have to import advance for time step, and the advance function is just gonna let's just put a number on here, right? Usize. All we're gonna do is print out self.0. So now we have advance on there, and then we're gonna implement advance for the chain as well. And we have to say where both A is implementing advance and B is implementing advance as well, right? So now here we can do self.a.advance and B advance. Okay, super easy. Then you can be 0. Let's call this T, right? That's gonna be 1. And that's going to be our T, so we're going to overwrite that. So if we do t.advance here, we should see 0 and 1, right? Okay, the mutable thing doesn't actually have to be mutable anymore, right? Easy. Right, so we're printing out 0 and 1 here. So we're basically chaining these things together, right? So we could chain this thing with a time step 2 if we wanted to, right? Which is pretty cool. Now, can we do this where we have something like a builder that contains steps, which is a vec of time step? And then we're going to implement the builder. We're going to take ownership of this thing to chain, right? I don't know what we're going to return yet, but we shall say no, we can't, because we're trying to make a type that can't be made. All right. We can't take a step and then chain it with another step. Well, we can do this, right? Self.steps 0.chain, right? That would work, but we can't really do that because we have a compile time need and a runtime need. They're two different things, right? Because we would not be able to do this and knowing when the vector ends. That's why this is not doable. It's a silly notion, obviously, to be able to build. So why do we have to do this with a vector in the first place? Because we have to sort them. Can we achieve something similar to X macros in Rust? I don't know what that means. Say I want to define multiple opcodes in my interpreter, and I would use a preprocessor in C to generate a static table of instructions I want to handle. Didn't meet something similar in Rust. What are you thinking, Japer? Right? I don't know what X macros are. But you absolutely can have macros to generate things. I just don't know what the expectations are of that. What's a good bitrate for recording? It depends on what you want to record. If you're recording 4K or 1080p, like 6000 would be fine for 1080p, probably quite fine, right? X macro. All right, fine. I'll buy it. I don't think I'm the right person to answer that question. I have seen things that looks a little bit like that. So I do believe that you can probably do something with it. I just don't know if I am the right person to answer that. I mean, have you looked at something like Rust programming, language design, X macros, right? Using Rust macros for code generation and optimization. Actually, I don't know if this is any good. No, I don't think this is good at all. This is probably not what you want to do. No, that's fair enough. There is a person, Japer, in my Discord that would 100% be able to answer your question. So if you ask that question in Discord, there's someone there named Musean that will most certainly have an answer for you. I'm rather confident they would. I can't promise you that they will answer, but I feel reasonably confident that they would. I'm guessing that you're going to end up with either procedural macros. I don't know if that can be done with the clarity macros, but again, I don't know what it looks like. I mean, maybe it can. Probably with clean index, right? That you could expand the list. Yeah, no, I shouldn't. I don't know for sure. Okay, so this thing, I followed this through, and it was a bit silly because we have a runtime vector that would have to be
So we can't return a different type, and we don't know when the vector ends. So the only way we could do this was if we use const generics. So should we use const generics for this thing? All right, what would that look like? So we're gonna say const and usize here, and then this is a time step. Whoops, time step n instead, right? So when we usize, so can we return? And what are we passing in here? We're passing in a time step, right? I've written time step with a lowercase s. That's a little bit gross. And this thing, can this return a builder with n plus 1? All right, so we can't do this. Can we not do that? We might, yeah, we could do that, right? So then we have to make a new array, right? So how do you how do you do this? We have to make a new array from the old one. So we need something like self dot times self dot steps and then ts at the end, right? That's not legal Rust, but we shouldn't have to do anything mutable. We can't use anything mutable in a const function. Is it possible to do that? So let's do like Rust grow array const generics. Let's see. Nah, this is something else. An array from function. No, really, what we want to do is we want to extend a new one. But I think this is so ridiculous that it can't work. For numeric arrays. Why does this look super dodgy? Yeah, okay, they can't even get this right. This looks very dodgy. Yeah. Yeah, not that. Ugh. Why is this J a school?
I remember when Constant X was announced, and I think someone did something like a dynamic resizable. Let's do Rust dynamic array with const generics. Yeah, we have to be known at compile time, but the question is how do we extend it, right? Unsized locals. Is this open? Oh no, it's not even there. Okay. Yeah. All right, that will be open forever probably. This is such a rabbit hole. I don't think it's doable. I'm pretty sure I saw someone do it, but um, it was many years ago when Constant X was new, right? And this is all. This doesn't mean anything. I've already solved all the problems I'm gonna solve today. I am just off on one now. Um, yeah, this is something different. This is again, that's not it. I'm pretty sure. Okay, let's try chat then. Oh my god, it was just straight up wrong. But if you want to use constant X, okay, create a fixed size array using constant X. Okay, so far that's correct. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, fixed array, blah blah blah. Okay, don't show anything with a vec. Don't elaborate. Elaborate unless asked. Correct my spelling. If there are typos, assume British English. All right. Can you make a const generic array that can grow by copying the content to a new array and adding the last new value? No, I don't want dynamic resizing, but let's see if there's anything here, right? No, that's okay. No. We don't want that. Okay. Don't. Oh my god, I can't. I struggle using these things for actual code help. Right, but indirectly, is there a way to copy one array into another when initializing the second array by using elements? Well, there is. Shut up, GPT. I know you don't. Okay. Thank you, Russian Noah. That's my issue with AI in general. It does wonder for simple stuff, but a lot of the time I need it to help. Yeah. It's all good, Rash. It's all good. Well, you say nice things, and when people are polite and kind to me, I tend to thank them, right? So we can do something like stud array from function, right? And then here we'll do this. Wait, so it wants 3. Okay, we'll infer that. What's the third one? Oh, the function. Okay, cool. So we'll infer that too. Wait, is this not const? It is not. Okay, can we still make that one const? So here, can we say if x is less than or equal to n, then self dot steps x else ts. Are you serious? We were almost there, right? But okay, forget this thing. Let's just do this now, right? And then this will be a U size for now. Right? So okay. Nobody call the Rust police on me for doing this now, okay? So we can actually add doing this. So that means that we could have a function called finish, takes self, and returns. Actually, it doesn't have to do that. It could just do self.steps.sort. Okay, let's take the time step and we make it a copy clone type for now, so we can go back to having time step here. Just because, right? And then we have partial, odd, partial, equal. Oh, fiddlesticks. Okay, you need odd as well. Well, let's do, instead of doing that, let's do sort unstable. Still need odd. Done. Well, done. There we go, right? Okay, so what would this thing contain? Now, can we sort of flip this around so we have like the final type here? And this thing, what if this thing were to have a function like pop that will return a builder with n minus 1? No, we can't do any mathematics in there. Oh, boo. So we don't know what that is. So we can add, but we can't subtract. Actually, we can. if we do const mu size here, right? And then we do a builder here where we have another set of steps, but this time, if it is less than n, then we're gonna do this. The problem is that we kind of have to return something here. We can't use n-1 here, can we? As an expression. No. And we can't say where m is equal to n-1. What a beautiful language that would have been. Imagine if you could write it like that. So yeah, we can do all of this with macros, but this was just an exercise in fooling around with stuff, right? Okay, so looking at my schedule now, I'm supposed to be done streaming now. I've gone over time a little bit as well. Then I got an hour for probably dinner and balatro, right? Should we finish off with a little bit of balatro? I'm gonna tell YouTube bye for now. So those of you who are watching over at YouTube, I am going to swap to balatro now. And I'm assuming that should probably not be part of these VODs. So thank you for watching, YouTuber. You're wonderful, and hope to see you tomorrow.